Welcome to the new sound of online radio. Welcome to the sound of Universal Broadcasting Network. 'Cause you make me feel like I've been locked out of heaven. A mix of today's hits and hard-to-find favorites, combined with the most entertaining and intriguing talk anywhere. This is your sound. This is the sound of Universal Broadcasting Network at UBNradio.com.
Welcome to all of our listeners and viewers around the country and around the world. This is another edition of Focus with Ron Frierson. I am your host, Mr. Ron Frierson. Our guest today, Mr. Rich Becky, is running a little bit late to the studio. This LA traffic is no joke. For us that live in Los Angeles, you know what I mean. And it seems like it's getting worse and worse every day. My regular contributor, Woody Wilson, isn't in today. He's probably out, getting a tan or something, or golfing, doing something fun, I'm sure. So have a good time doing that, Woody. Listen, everyone, this week when I was waiting until the Comey testimony to get a lot of the material that I was going to speak about today. And sure enough, I think it was well worth the wait. But one thing it didn't do, it didn't settle anything. We're still pretty much up in the air. One thing for certain is that it's going to be a he said versus he said. The only thing is that he said is, do we have a caller already? A caller, okay. It's a little early, but caller, please give me your name and the city you're calling in from.
Valerie Adams, Seattle, Washington.
Hi, Valerie. How are you?
Good. Are you guys about to, it says there's something wrong with the video.
Oh, really? No, it's the video should be up and running. Maybe if you refresh your screen, then what happens? So you called me for tech support?
Yep. So I'll just wait. I'll refresh it. I see you.
Okay, Valerie. Thank you for, and you're in Seattle, Washington?
Yes.
Okay, well, thank you for calling in from Seattle, all right? Call in with a question or comment next time. That's funny. All right, thank you for calling, Valerie. Take care. Okay. Well, that was a first, but thank you, Valerie, from listening from Seattle, Washington. We're always glad to have our listeners and viewers all over the place. So what I was saying is that it's a he said versus he said, but only thing that's different is that the he said in Comey was actually under oath. His testimony pointed out a few things, and I think it was very, very believable. For one, it showed him to be a flawed person. He was trying to explain how he meant to do the right things, but in some cases he may or may not have made the right decision, but he felt the conviction to do it the way he did. Let's just say, for instance, when Loretta Lynch asked him to not refer to the Hillary Clinton investigation as an investigation, but to refer to it as a matter, and taking the line of the Clinton campaign as opposed to saying exactly what it was, he bucked that suggestion by Loretta Lynch and called it an investigation, which in turn probably cost Hillary the election. He admitted to that. He also admitted to some things about President Trump. He admitted, for one, that he did tell the president that him being President Trump is not directly under investigation. He said, no, yourself, you're not under investigation. President Trump was really quick to look at that as vindication. But at the same time, he didn't want to acknowledge that that Comey was telling the truth in regards to whether or not Trump asked him not to pursue Michael Lynch in this investigation into the Russian probe. So, and as we speak, my buddy Rich just walked into the studio. So what we're going to do, we're going to take a quick commercial break and get Rich mic'd up. And then when we come back, Rich will be on the screen with us. So thank you for bearing with us. Valerie from Seattle, thank you for calling in so early. And then also, Rich, thank you for showing up late. This is one of those days. All right? We'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Dr. Yates. I'm a hair transplant surgeon. When people come to see me, they have a problem. They've lost a lot of hair and they want their hair back. We have our own line of hair products, and I think it's a real winner. The way we start is with Mega Biotin. Number 2, edge control. It prevents breakage and holds the edges down. Apple cider vinegar shampoo. It adds body, it adds shine, and it also reduces inflammation. Depending on if your hair is dry, you want to use hydrating. If your hair is thin, you use the thickening shampoo. Then we have our secret sauce, argan oil. With that, we have what's called Miracle Blowout. The Sheen Spray is basically kind of a permutation of the argan oil. It just adds a finishing touch to the hair. And finally, the Dynamic Duo, Keratin Fibers. This makes your hair look thicker instantaneously. This doesn't come out in the wind, doesn't come out in the rain. We can guarantee this will help your hair and keep you from coming to see me about hair loss.
Zhivago timepieces are luxury watches for both women and men. Designs for women are inspired by classic femininity while maintaining their contemporary style. Designs for men blend classic elegance and sporty versatility. All timepieces remain true to the Zhivago lifestyle, including their glamorous presentation, which is a nod to the famous Parisian fragrance that started it all. Zhivago timepieces transcend the ages, recalling life's most treasured moments. Let Zhivago inspire you.
Visit www.zhivagowatches.com or shop Zhivago Watches on Amazon.
Where does your favorite restaurant get its bread? Do they make it themselves? If not, make sure your favorite restaurant uses Artisan Crust Bakery for all their baked goods. 100% natural, 100% fresh, 100% delicious.
Flowers are nature's expression of love and appreciation. There is no better way to show your love and appreciation than with these beautifully intricate arrangements by Designs by David. Designs by David will deliver beautiful arrangements to you for any occasion, in any city and state around the world. Love and appreciation should be expressed every day. Express it with Designs by David today. Mention Focus with Ron Frierson for a discount.
Okay, we're back. We took an earlier than usual commercial break. It's summertime, so people are excited and things are going on in Los Angeles. We live in a city that is so congested right now, and traffic is terrible. Mayor Garcetti, I don't know what you're going to do, but something needs to happen with this traffic. But we had two great things that happened. One, I had a caller from Seattle, and I appreciate her calling. Valerie, thank you for calling in again, even though it's for tech support. It's okay. And then, and secondly, we have my friend of a long time, Mr. Rich Becky, fresh back from Bangkok, Thailand.
What up?
Rich.
Pleasure to be here with you, man.
Hey, it's nice to have you. Now, Rich, I've known Rich for a very long time, and he's one of my closest friends, and he's a world traveler. So whenever he happens to be home, I try to go out to dinner with him and go to lunch with him. We just catch up. So how long have you been back from Thailand?
Couple weeks, a little bit less than 2 weeks.
A little bit less than 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And you have this blog that you write. What's the name of the blog that you write?
You can find the blog at richtrek.com and TREK. Basically, I just go, and oftentimes I go to places of immense beauty and I post photos from those locations, or I go on crazy adventures because I almost always say yes to anything that's offered to me. And when that happens, those things generally do lead to adventures.
Yes, he does. So now, before you came in, I was talking about the Comey testimony this week, and it was probably one of the most anticipated testimonies before Congress in quite some time. And did you get a chance to check it out?
I definitely did.
Yeah, I was saying before we went in that basically it's going to be a he said versus he said, but I think the edge of trustworthiness and honesty, in my opinion, goes to Comey, just for the simple fact, for one, he did it under oath, and for two, President Trump has proven to be a person who exaggerates. Even from the size of the crowd of his inauguration, to the stuff he said about President Obama being in Kenya, and also saying President Obama tapped the phones, and just this he has a mental disorder, in my opinion, my humble opinion. There's a mental disorder that's either diagnosed or undiagnosed, but it's gotten this far, and he has a tendency to just do too much with Twitter, all this. I don't trust him. I mean,
it's even in his book. It's the Art of the Deal. He specifically states that people like to think that they're buying the best. So if you exaggerate, it's okay. In his mind, it's okay.
Wow.
He's stated time and time again that he's an exaggerator. He's openly admitted it on numerous occasions.
So whenever he says something this is the best you ever have, then we need to take that with a grain of salt.
Absolutely, because everything is the best, and there are very few things that can be the best.
So we need to take that into account, everyone. All the Trump supporters, I guess they need to read The Art of the Deal as well, and so you need to bake it into the cake that when he says something, then he himself may know that he's full of shit, and so he's just saying it to appease the masses or to maybe convince himself.
And it also becomes a habit. When you continually perform a behavior, it becomes much more easy to do.
Yeah.
It just becomes second nature. It becomes like muscle memory.
Yeah.
It's just with your mouth.
That is very, very profound. So the stuff he was saying about healthcare on the campaign trail, how he's going to fix it and it's easy to do, and we're going to have the best healthcare ever. Believe me, this is his favorite thing. Believe me, the best healthcare ever. You're gonna have the greatest health, so great. You're not gonna ever get sick because you just know that the sickness isn't gonna last because the healthcare is just gonna be so powerful that it'll keep you from getting sick. I mean, all this kind of BS that he was throwing out there, and I guess with his infrastructure bill, that makes me wonder whether or not, because he was speaking this week about infrastructure. And that goes back to what we were saying at the beginning of the show with you coming on and the roads and everything here in Los Angeles, and that's just indicative of what it is across the country, the roads and the bridges and things of that sort, our ports, our airports. I don't know whether or not he'll be able to follow through and get a real infrastructure bill passed just because he carries no credibility.
Well, I certainly hope that he'll be able to pass an infrastructure bill. Obviously,
Absolutely.
We do need it
We
as
need
a
it badly.
nation. I mean, our bridges are crumbling. The roads are clogged, and they were created generally in a time when cars were far more scarce and population density was much lower.
It's very true.
You come to Los Angeles and you see how deeply the roads are packed and how difficult it is to drive. Yeah, we definitely do need something.
So when in your travels, and we spoke about this a little bit at dinner the other night, have you ever had, or maybe you just go to the type, because you got to know Rich. Rich is like Anthony Bourdain without all the food. He goes to very obscure places, and I'll let him tell some of the stories later on in the show. But have you ever gotten into a political conversation in somewhere abroad, and they brought up what they thought about either the United States or about President Trump, or even President Obama, for that matter?
Well, certainly. I mean, when Obama came to power, I was in the Middle East, and I was in Egypt and Turkey, and I was also in Syria and Jordan and other such places. And people were actually very hopeful of Obama, and they thought he was definitely a step up over Bush. Specifically, people in Egypt were very excited that Obama said, the Arabic word for welcome and may God be with you. Asaluk salam. I'm sure I screwed that up.
Assalamu alaikum.
Yes. And so I definitely did get that. In general, I find people's view of the United States to be the land of hope.
Yeah.
You go abroad and you see how people live. You go to places that are truly downtrodden, whether that be the Middle East. I mean, you see how little people have and how generally happy they are. I mean, I was out in the desert deep, near the Iraqi border in Syria, and these people had met me, and they had never met a white person before. I was the first person, and their children were actually scared of me because I have green eyes.
Wow.
And the kids were like scared of me until you start playing with them. And the moment you start playing like Monster and chasing them, that's like the universal language.
Yeah.
And you realize how ingrained, how close we all are, how similar we all are, despite the fact that we have similar physical differences.
Exactly.
The minor physical differences might scare you for the moment, but then you realize what's in the heart of the children was when they realize what's in my heart, that I just want to play with them, and have a good time.
Yeah.
That bridges everything. And then the adults, they slaughtered a sheep in our honor. And these are people with nothing. They're nomads. They go around the desert, just looking for areas where their sheep can can eat.
I hear their hospitality is legendary.
The Middle East has the greatest hospitality outside of possibly Japan.
Yeah.
That I've ever been, and I have a theory for it. I think that I came to this, you have a Bedouin culture where people are traversing the desert, and it's a very harsh environment with very little water, obviously.
Exactly.
And if you fail to help somebody and that word gets around, you are pretty much dead meat, because the next
So
time
it's like a social duty as much as it is just some sort of, just out of the goodness of your heart. It's like a social duty, a social contract of abiding within that culture, that you treat strangers right, or your guests, you treat them correctly.
Absolutely. There's no doubt about that. It's part of the social fabric, and it's there for a reason. It helps people survive.
That's correct. So when you were in Syria, tell me about that. How was Syria?
Well, I was there in 2010,
okay.
shortly before
the Green Revolution.
The S-storm
when was the Green Revolution?
That was in 2010, the end of 2010, I believe, in Egypt, or beginning of 2011, and then it started to spread in 2011. I was there at the end of 2010, and I can tell you this, that you could certainly feel it in the air. You could certainly feel that there was discord. You talk about the Mukhabarat, which is the Syrian Secret Service. You just don't talk about those things. People instantly shut up the moment that you ask a question about that or direct a conversation in any way that can go there. I met an American who was actually studying Arabic there, and he told me that he said that Assad's father had actually, that Assad's done a fairly good job of opening Syria up, and people shied away from that because it implied that his father had not done a good job, and anything remotely negative towards the state, you can get dragged in and you can get whipped and tortured.
You know what? That brings up something. I was speaking to a mutual friend of ours, and he knows who he is because he listens all the time. I'll put it like this. He has red hair, and you know who I'm talking about, okay? And we were speaking, and he was telling me about, he has something to say about the fact that, people were talking bad against the president. Or do you think that, or also he said something about the speech, that people have this religious speech, we're talking about radical Islamic fundamentalism and things of that sort. And I said, well, people ought to be able to say whatever they want to say, even if I don't like it. Say what you want to say. I mean, in Detroit and Ann Arbor, the Ku Klux Klan can march on the street. They can say what they want to say, but it's the action that will drive them, in their case, to get their asses kicked. But it's the action that's a problem. It's not the speech. And I said, once we go down the point where we start to regulate free speech, or say we're upset because someone, not upset, but ban people from burning the flag, that's a slippery slope to become the type of society that we're talking about, that you find in many places in the Middle East, that you cannot say anything bad. And I'm certain that it started to a point. Those things grow. So if we at first start to say you can't speak badly against the country, or you can't speak badly. Now, that doesn't mean it has to be accepted. Like you can't frown upon those people that do it, but it can't be outlawed, and it can't be something wherein you can be cracked down on by the authorities if you say something disparaging against a president or against the flag or something like that, because that's the case in some of these countries you've been to. If you say something bad against the regime in power, then you may not
get
make
dragged
it home.
off, tortured. That's definitely the case, and it starts slowly. You illegalize one thing, you make one thing, you say no, you can't do that, and then it's the next thing, and the next thing. It's like cooking a frog. You don't boil it all at once. You just drop it in the water and slowly turn up the heat.
So I believe that those rights that we have, and the freedom of press and things, those things are very, very important. How do you feel when you see our president? And because President Trump, you hear what he did with CNN. He put CNN in the back of the room during this press conference he came today. All of the other press, the Romanian press, Fox News, everyone else's front seat, he put CNN way in back, trying to teach him a lesson, and he calls them fake news. It's like he's in his way trying to break down the institutions and treat them in a certain way, when there's always been, especially in this day and age, one set of news, quote unquote news, that would be pro or anti a given party or a given president. Fox News couldn't stand President Obama. They couldn't say anything good about him, but they were still right there in the front row every day. What do you think about President Trump and the way he's going about tearing down our institutions.
I believe that it's an assault on the media. It's assault on free speech. If he had it his way, the only thing that you could do is praise him to high heavens. That would be the one thing that would be accepted. An alternative point of view for somebody with a huge ego simply doesn't jive. And Trump has one of the biggest egos in the history of politics.
Yeah. I don't know. That's one thing that really scares me, is that the breakdown of institutions and also calling into question. Now the FBI hasn't always done things right. I mean, it was a time in J. Edgar Hoover's days wherein they have done something in regards to the what's the name, the investigations on Dr. Martin Luther King and Malcolm X and their kind of adverse stance towards civil rights, which obviously I don't like. But what he's saying now, what he's doing now, is almost like two branches of our government, the law enforcement branch and then the presidency and the White House, going at each other like a war. You can't stand like that. A country cannot continually cannibalize within itself and go to war within itself and expect to be strong once some external force comes up that forces us to react as one. And I just don't know. I've never seen anything like it.
I definitely tend to agree with you. I look at what's going on with our institutions, and I just have the utmost faith in the fact that it was that our Constitution was created so well, and the will of the American people is, throughout history has been second to none. And one thing I will tell you with all my travels is how grateful I am to have been born in this nation, nation that turned the tide in World War II, which is the reason that the world isn't speaking German today.
That's true.
That's
very true.
The fact that we had the greatest generation in history, the World War II vets that came home and created the institutions. And I believe that we are progressing in a positive direction. And of course, at any given time, you're going to have people that are going to try to impose their will no matter what. And that is also what's going on.
Do you think that we'll end up I don't know if we'll impeach him, though. I really don't. Because I actually, in my own opinion, I don't think that what he's done in regards to, I don't think that there's any Russian collusion there. That's just me. I think that there may be some in his campaign wherein like some of his key people were, but I think there's been enough separation from him to protect him and insulate him that maybe he didn't know about it, and that's what's going to save his butt in that regard. But I think what's going to get him is his reaction to all of that in regards to the lies he's telling, in regards to his tweets, in regards to, whether or not he did obstruct justice. It's those other peripheral things that may rise to a high crime or misdemeanor, as opposed to actively being engaged with the Russians to try to, sway the election in his favor. Because of his narcissism, he can't control himself.
He can't not be the center of attention, and that will ultimately be to his detriment. I mean, his poll numbers are falling so dramatically at this stage of his presidency. He has the lowest approval rating, I believe, of any president of the modern era, at 34% or 38% found him trustworthy.
Hey, but those 37 or 38, they will go to the gates of hell with this dude. They just love him to death, and they can't see anything. Well, I wish he would tweet less, but it's still I was speaking to another mutual friend of ours, and he just could not, and I think I told you about this, he just could not find within himself to be truly objective when it came to President Trump. I said, now, if President Obama did 10% of what he's done, you would be all over him. But for some reason, you keep giving President Trump the benefit of the doubt. Well, he hasn't done this before. Well, no one was president before they became president, and it's not like you've been president before and now you're coming back to be president again. I just don't get it. I really don't get it. But those people, there's something that he says to them that really resonates with them. I don't think it's all just tribal. Maybe some of that is part of it, but I just don't know. They just drink the Kool-Aid with extra sugar. I just don't get it.
Extra sugar.
But I was going to ask you about Russia. Where was it that you were? You were like on a border of Russia or something. You got stopped by.
Oh, my Russian Mongolian story.
Okay, tell me about that one.
Okay, well, in Russia. I was visiting a friend in St. Petersburg. I flew out to Siberia, traversed Lake Baikal. I was pretty much done with Russia at that point. Nobody there speaks English, especially in the eastern part.
Yeah.
And I just found my way on the train to a small town. And the next train out of there, I was just going to spend one night, I thought, was 3 days later. Mm-hmm. And then I look around the town and I'm like, I don't even want to be here.
Wow.
I'm just going to get straight on out of here. I'm going to go to the nearest country, which is Mongolia. Mongolia. I don't know how many people have ever been to Mongolia, but it's a ways away.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking to myself, okay, I find some information out, some people direct me, and I realize that there's a bus that is going to the Mongolian border that afternoon. 45 minutes later, I'm on that small van. We're traversing these roads that nobody's on. We're practically the only van on the road.
Yeah.
The driver keeps driving. We're driving 65 miles an hour with bug spray all over the windshield. I have no idea how the driver saw out of there. We make one stop. At 11 o'clock at night, we get into the border town, which is a few miles away from the actual Mongolian-Russian border.
Yeah.
Now, I get out of there, and before we had arrived at the town, we were stopped at a military checkpoint. And they come onto the van, and they look around, and everybody in that part of the world, they're either look part Asian or full Asian. I'm the only Caucasian person of obvious Caucasian descent. They ask to see my passport. I give them my passport. They take it outside. Time passes. I'm sitting there. People are twiddling their thumbs, but I'm breathing heavy. It's like they took my oxygen from me, man.
Exactly.
And that passport, I need to get that back. I don't know whether they're going to take ask me for a bribe. I don't know if they're going to pull me off the van and arrest me. They come back on, and in my incredibly broken Russian and everybody else's incredibly broken English, what I realize is I have to leave Russia that night.
They tell you that.
They tell me I've got to leave Russia that night. So I get off of the van, and I'm looking around wondering what to do. It's 11 o'clock at night. I'm pretty freaking tired. There's some lodging somewhere. Maybe I'll go there. A man from the van, not trying to be mean, totally being helpful, says, you need to go.
Wow.
Okay, I need to go. So I find a taxi, takes me to the border, drops me off at the border. Now, there's a couple of cars at the border. It's pitch dark. All I can see is a concrete wall separating Russia and Mongolia.
Wow.
I look around. I take out my bags. I'm like, what am I going to do? He just gets in the car, drives away. Puff of smoke comes into my face along with some sand. And I'm looking around just thinking about it. And some Mongolians that are crossing the border say, hey, come here. Come here, there. They're at the front of the line, the car. All right, I walk over there. Hey, we give you ride. Okay.
And you jump in the car with them.
I jump in the car with them. They want some money, right?
Want some money?
They want some money. So we get across the border. The Russian authorities are giving me the up and down, looking over my passport, every single page of the passport. Russian authorities are not people that you want to mess with.
Exactly.
I'm as polite as I possibly can.
And you're in a way
be.
out in the outpost.
Oh, there's nothing.
Eastern.
There is nothing.
Wow.
So we crossed the border. Now, between the border and the nearest town, that's 25 miles away.
Wow.
25 miles, and you are on a very bad road, and we pull off of the road. I'm like, why are we pulling off the road? Now, this is after I've gotten my passport stamp. Now I'm in Mongolia. Why are we getting off the road? And the crosses my mind. Did ISIS burrow over to this side? Are they going to hold me kidnapped? Am I going to get ransomed or something? I'm just going to freaking run. I'm going to leave my bags and I'm going to run. Now, I'm going to probably.
You don't know where you're going to run.
I
but
have
you're
no idea,
run.
but I know that we're off the road and we are not in the right place.
Exactly.
Then I see in the headlights. Imagine you're looking through the headlights and you see the outline of a big SUV. And to my right, on the SUV side, is a huge man standing there. Just this outline of him. And I'm like, what are we doing? What are we doing? And they're like, change. I'm like, I'm not changing cars. No way. And I'm like, just.
It's like change for you to change.
Change. And I'm like, I've got no idea what they're talking about. I'm just thinking to myself, I'm just going to get ready to sprint. Put my track skills to good use. And we get there, and they pull up, and this guy has a big, huge jacket on because it's cold as hell there. And he's got this big, huge jacket on. He's got a stack this high of money.
Oh, wow.
change means money change, money exchange.
Oh, okay.
So we go there, we exchange some money. I exchange some money with him, get some Mongolia turgid, it's called. I'm just freaking out. We just get back in. They take me 20 miles away under the moonlight to the border town. They drop me off at 3 o'clock in the morning by the time we get everything done. And I just check into this really low rent motel, even for Mongolia, pay my fee. And the woman there just gets me on the bus in the morning. But I mean, they took away my passport. They're looking me up and down. And then I think I might get abducted. It was one crazy wild night.
Rich got raped in Mongolia. You heard it here first.
That's another story. That's another story.
I was just joking. Hey, we're gonna go to a commercial break, and we'll be right back with Rich. And Red, I see you joined. I was just talking about you. All right, let's take a commercial right now.
Hi, I'm Dr. Yates. I'm a hair transplant surgeon. When people come to see me, they have a problem. They've lost a lot of hair and they want their hair back. We have our own line of hair products, and I think it's a real winner. The way we start is with Mega Biotin. Number 2, edge control. It prevents breakage and holds the edges down. Apple cider vinegar shampoo. It adds body, it adds shine, and it also reduces inflammation. Depending on if your hair is dry, you want to use hydrating. If your hair is thin, you use the thickening shampoo. Then we have our secret sauce, argan oil. With that, we have what's called Miracle Blowout. The Sheen Spray is basically kind of a permutation of the argan oil. It just adds a finishing touch to the hair. And finally, the Dynamic Duo, keratin fibers. This makes your hair look thicker instantaneously. This doesn't come out in the wind, doesn't come out in the rain. We can guarantee this will help your hair and keep you from coming to see me about hair loss.
Zhivago timepieces are luxury watches for both women and men. Designs for women are inspired by classic femininity while maintaining their contemporary style. Designs for men blend classic elegance and sporty versatility. All timepieces remain true to the Zhivago lifestyle, including their glamorous presentation, which is a nod to the famous Parisian fragrance that started it all. Zhivago timepieces transcend the ages, recalling life's most treasured moments. Let Zhivago inspire you.
Visit www.zhivagowatches.com or shop Zhivago watches on Amazon.
Flowers are nature's expression of love and appreciation. There is no better way to show your love and appreciation than with these beautifully intricate arrangements by Designs by David. Designs by David will deliver beautiful arrangements to you for any occasion, in any city and state around the world. Love and appreciation should be expressed every day. Express it with Designs by David today. Mention Focus with Ron Frierson for a discount.
Thank you. Hey, thanks for joining us, guys. I have my brother, Mr. Rich Becky here. You guys have to check out his blog. Go to richtrek.com, and that's RICHTREK.com. He has pictures, mostly photographs, but he also has some stories about some of his travels. He's been everywhere. He just got back from Bangkok, Thailand, where him and his wife reside currently, and they're expecting a little boy.
Yeah,
that
that's
they're going to name Ronnie.
Ronnie.
and so thank
else
so
did I get on the
congratulations
show?
on that. Exactly. So but I was going to ask, because you said you were in Mongolia, and that's a great story about Mongolia, and you said you also spent time. I know you spent time in China as well.
Yes.
What did you think of China?
It's a place that's a tremendous. There's a tremendous amount of pressure there. They have 1 billion plus people. If you're not right for the job, somebody else is, and there's tremendous pressure on the people of the nation. I don't think that the government themselves, they don't make it. For example, to be a good Samaritan, a friend of ours got injured on a motorcycle. He got in a motorcycle accident, and nobody would take him to the hospital because they'd be responsible for him. So they do not incentivize being a good Samaritan. He ended up losing a leg from that hit. It was amputated. It was a basketball player.
So in what way is it a disincentive to be a good Samaritan?
Because if you go there, then you're responsible for the hospital bills or whatever else there is. Yes. Yes.
So even in a communist country where you think they have kind of state run healthcare system, they don't.
It's the ins and out of it I'm not aware of, but I do know that is what we were told, and that is that takes place time and time again. I found it to be a place with a lot of propaganda. I mean, we took a tour of Tiananmen Square with a guide, and she told me that the Chinese government acted rightly and justly, and they needed to do that in order to protect the nation. When they went in and they dispersed, or rather killed, the student protesters with tanks. In the late 80s or the early 90s, Tiananmen Square. And so the propaganda that exists there, even amongst tour guides, and I truly believe that she believed what she was stating. This is what she was taught. This is the party line that they just regurgitate. I found the Chinese, throughout Asia, wherever you go in Asia, the Chinese have unfortunately, the worst reputation. They
really, in what way?
They're seen as boorish, very ill-mannered, and very aggressive and dishonest. There's a famous story that they tell in Malaysia of somebody who was importing shoes, and he ordered 500, and the guy showed him a left shoe, and he's like, "Oh, great, I'll take 500 of those." He got 500 boxes the next week, and there are 500 of the left shoe, and he's like, "What happened to the right ones?" And he's like, "Oh yeah, you only ordered 500 of these. You have to pay for the other 500 right ones."
I've heard different cultures have different reputations, and some of them stereotypical, and it may not be accurate, and some of them maybe are in regards to doing business. Like I understand in China, they will try to get over on you.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. And just like in the certain Middle Eastern countries, that you may feel like you have settled on a deal through negotiations, and okay, we're settled on a deal. You shake on it. That's the time when negotiations begin, because it's not like a deal is not a deal. It's really weird, but I've heard that about a few different countries. So in China, it's 1 billion plus of those guys.
Yeah,
and it has to be such strain on the infrastructure. And when I say infrastructure, I mean everything. I don't mean just roads and bridges, because that's an obvious thing. But I mean like even the food supply, the water supply, things of that sort. Because we have that many people. I guess that makes sense as to why they eat certain things that normally we wouldn't eat. And it's because access to protein is probably limited when you're talking about a 1 billion plus people. And then some of them being in such poverty.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you go, I was on the Yangtze River in 2007, and the people there, they would work so hard just for a couple of bucks. My friend who I was with tipped somebody like $4, and the guy was just out of his mind, happy about that tip, for carrying his bags up a flight of stairs. But you go there and you see the nature of the people, and it's not unkind, it's just poverty. And when you live in that, you see the absence of teeth or whatever else, and the fact is that they don't have a lot of protein. They eat a lot of greens. I mean, we in the West, we die diseases of decadence. There in China, they die diseases of poverty.
Wow.
When I say diseases of decadence, I mean like heart attacks, cancer.
Exactly.
They're dying from rickets or whatever else that might exist.
I never heard it put that way, but that's a good point. So we die of diseases of decadence from overeating and eating the bad things. There they die for lack of nutrition.
Yeah.
Wow, that's interesting. So we already know the answer to this, but what has been the place that you were most disappointed by in regards to the standard of living and just the overall concept of going there, what you thought it was going to be as opposed to what it really was?
Well, when you put it like that, it's India. When you go to India, you are in for an S storm. I mean, it is just...
You can curse.
It's a shitstorm. I mean, you go to Mumbai, the streets smell like a sewer. They just do. I mean, there's literally cow shit everywhere. There's cows walking around the streets. But when you see how the people live, and you can get off a train in India, and there will be people sleeping by the tracks simply because it's a little bit warmer. And when you get out of the train station, at night you have to look down where you're walking to make sure you don't step on somebody.
Wow.
And when you see people living in this state, and you see the people that their whole life is begging, and this is the only thing that they know. And I remember telling my friend, wow, I mean, there's so many people, and it just hits you so hard.
Yeah.
And I was like, one time I just almost started to cry, and I said, I feel sorry for these people. And my friend said, you're very arrogant. And I'm like, why? He's like, they don't feel sorry for themselves. Why do you feel sorry for them? And it just becomes a lesson in the reality and the different realities that actually exist in the world. And this is the only reality that they know is this begging. They don't know our reality. They don't know the reality in Argentina or wherever else.
So it's like a situation where they don't know they're deprived. But even now, when you think about the economic prosperity that many in India have had, and so now they can actually see people moving up into middle class, and it's still so far. They're still so far removed.
There's always been a great divide in India between the upper class and the lower class, and you can go to Mumbai and you can see literally billion-dollar buildings, with people living in there, the high life, and next by you can have the slums of Dharavi, which is like 1 million people packed into a square 2.5 square kilometers.
Wow.
And you go into these. I've been in these slums, and I was the tourist attraction because I was the white person there that they haven't seen in years.
Wow.
And it's Slumdog Millionaire on steroids when you actually see it in reality, and you see 15-foot piles of trash and people living at the base of them. You see the rivers of sewage. You see the goats eating the plastic, and then people, milking the goats for whatever milk they might get.
And so you told me you've been in the Ganges, right?
Yes, I have.
What the hell were you thinking about, man? Why would you do that? Because you're crazy.
Well, I was asked if I wanted to go in the Ganges, and as I stated earlier, I say yes to just about anything. I did not quite realize how dirty it was. I was in Varanasi, and in Varanasi, India, it's a place actually where many Indians dream of going to die so that their ashes would be spread into the mother of India, which is the Ganges River.
Yeah.
That's what they consider the mother.
Wow.
And so you can actually see the funeral processions. They carry the bodies, and then they bring them to the river, and then they burn the bodies, and you see the bodies just going up in smoke, and then just like clockwork, they just sweep the ashes into the river.
It makes you think, in regards to how blessed we are to be in this country. We are truly blessed to be here. And we spoke about, some situations I had when I was in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, and I had the worst bout of food poisoning in my life. But I've been lucky. The places that I visited haven't been as exotic. I've been to Malaysia, Australia, of course, France, Belgium. So mostly, civilized first world countries. But when you hear about the stuff that you're telling us, it just makes you appreciate us. Appreciate the United States even more so, and it should make us patriotic Americans proud and also vigilant in regards to really understanding how important it is for us to have competent leadership at the top. Because if you leave it to just completely just private sector profit motive, that's amoral. That means it's not bad, it's not good, it has no morals, it's amoral.
Mm-hmm.
And if you leave the profit motive to run things like humans, then there's going to be so many humans left behind, and the divide, which is currently growing, is only going to continue to grow. Even in our country now, the people that are accumulating so much more, and then the people who are trying to get there have to work 3 or 4 times as hard, but the rules are set against them at the same time.
Well, I would love to address this. First of all, I completely concur in the fact that we should be incredibly grateful to be born in this country.
That's right.
There is never been a country or any place that has, with the freedom and the opportunity that we are afforded as Americans. And it's not like I just feel so blessed to have been born here. And just compared to the rest of the world. Now, in terms of the profit motive versus the amoral profit motive and the divide that's becoming and growing, as you pointed out, in this nation, I do want to offer a counterpoint to that, because I do believe that even being born poor, you're born with a flat screen TV. You can afford an iPhone, and you can afford a car that actually works. And if you were born even in the 1950s, your car was a clunker. It was continually breaking down. You can afford to get around now. You have Uber, you have driverless cars coming that are going to make it so much cheaper for us to get around, to transport ourselves.
Well, public transportation, buses and things of that sort. But so what you're doing, you're comparing our poverty does not compare
It
to the
doesn't
poverty
compare
that
to the
you
poverty
see.
of the
And
rest
that's
of the
a
world.
good point. So when we talk about our poor here, and we have poor here, there is an entirely different level of poor. And that's something that we need to take into account, that not all poor is
Absolutely.
equal.
I hear so many people here in Los Angeles where, a lot of people have a lot of money complaining about absolutely trivial notions. And then I hear even the impoverished Americans who can afford to have a belly, and there are plenty of places where people still cannot afford to get fat. It's like the old Rock joke, like, if you can eat a pork chop, you eat that pork chop. I don't care who you are.
I do remember him saying that I don't know if it was him or D.L. Hughley. They were talking about being lactose intolerant and saying that's, those are first world
Absolutely.
problems.
There's no peanut allergies in Africa.
Yeah.
There are no peanut allergies in Africa. You give them peanuts, they'll eat them.
Yeah.
There are people still starving.
Yeah.
That's
a good point. How much time do we have left, Jarvis? You were giving me the signal there. Okay. Hey, we're going to take our last commercial break and come back with Rich, and we're going to close this thing out with some fun stuff, because Rick, he's really bringing me down with this poverty talk in India and stuff like that.
Let's bring it up.
Okay.
We'll bring it up after the break.
We'll bring it back up. All right. Let's go to a commercial break.
Hi, I'm Dr. Yates. I'm a hair transplant surgeon. When people come to see me, they have a problem. They've lost a lot of hair and they want their hair back. We have our own line of hair products, and I think it's a real winner. The way we start is with Mega Biotin. Number 2, edge control. It prevents breakage and holds the edges down. Apple cider vinegar shampoo. It adds body, it adds shine, and it also reduces inflammation. Depending on if your hair is dry, you want to use hydrating. If your hair is thin, you use the thickening shampoo. Then we have our secret sauce, argan oil. With that, we have what's called Miracle Blowout. The Sheen Spray is basically kind of a permutation of the argan oil. It just adds a finishing touch to the hair. And finally, the Dynamic Duo, keratin fibers. This makes your hair look thicker instantaneously. This doesn't come out in the wind, doesn't come out in the rain. We can guarantee this will help your hair and keep you from coming to see me about hair loss.
Zhivago timepieces are luxury watches for both women and men. Designs for women are inspired by classic femininity while maintaining their contemporary style. Designs for men blend classic elegance and sporty versatility. All timepieces remain true to the Zhivago lifestyle, including their glamorous presentation, which is a nod to the famous Parisian fragrance that started it all. Zhivago timepieces transcend the ages, recalling life's most treasured moments. Let Zhivago inspire you.
Visit www.zhivagowatches.com or shop Zhivago Watches on Amazon.
We're Simone and Valerie, real estate professionals with Coldwell Banker Beverly Hills North, the #1 grossing office in the nation. Whether you're thinking of purchasing a new home, selling your old, or just have real estate related questions, we're confident we can help you.
One of the biggest complaints people have of their agent is lack of communication, so we make sure we are constantly in touch with our clients and keep them informed every step of the way. Our philosophy is simple: provide our clients with outstanding service from start to finish.
Our goal is to be there for you from your first home to any future properties you buy or sell.
We want to be your agents for life.
Flowers are nature's expression of love and appreciation. There is no better way to show your love and appreciation than with these beautifully intricate arrangements by Designs by David. Designs by David will deliver beautiful arrangements to you for any occasion, in any city and state around the world. Love and appreciation should be expressed every day. Express it with Designs by David today. Mention Focus with Ron Frierson for a discount.
All right. So we're back with my friend Rich Becky, and don't forget, you got to check out his site, richtrek.com, richtrek.com, and he has all these stories and pictures from all the places around the globe that he travels. I'm telling you, he's going to be huge one day. We're going to have a big coffee table book. I've been telling him for a long time, you need to get all your stuff and your stories compiled in a big coffee table book. You could be like the Anthony Bourdain without eating strange, crazy stuff.
I don't know why he does that. There's so many more interesting things than food.
You should think about it. I told you that a long time ago because I like reading your stuff. So, but Rich is also a wannabe basketball player.
Wannabe.
And so we were talking on the break, and I was talking about what his thoughts were on the next game, I guess it'll be Game 4 of the NBA Finals.
If you're betting, just bet on the sweep. It's an easiest bet in the world. I mean, the Warriors have no chance of losing. They're the superior team by far. Greatest team of all time, in fact. Greatest team of all time.
I hate to say that, but if you go through the entire playoffs and you haven't lost one game, that means you would be 16
and 0.
If they go 16 and 0, you got to give it to them.
Greatest team of all time.
I mean, wow. I mean, that's still not taking anything away from the greatest player of all time, Michael Jordan.
Well, maybe.
How's that?
Well, you got to throw LeBron in the mix. I know you're going to say that he doesn't have that, that killer instinct or whatever, but you take LeBron versus Michael and you put them up against each other, I bet you LeBron wins.
I don't think so.
I think so.
You know why I don't think so? It's because LeBron is by far the physical specimen. If LeBron were to post him up,
yeah,
so that would mean if they played make it take it. So if they play make it take it, that if you make the shot, you keep possession.
Even if you don't, you got to favor LeBron. And Michael Jordan is great. Obviously, and for his time, he was absolutely the greatest player of all time. And if you put him in the context of his time versus today, he still is probably the greatest player of all time. But if you just talk about who would beat each other in their prime, it would definitely be LeBron.
Well, you know what? That may be a false argument because if we think about it, if you put it that way, then Shaq could be the greatest player of all time because all he has to do is
you just foul him and put him at the line and get the ball back.
No. In a one-on-one, if he will overpower and dunk on anybody, he would do the same thing to LeBron. He'd do it to Michael. So maybe we have to compare them, not a one-on-one matchup because one of the reasons why they're pros is because it's difficult to guard them one-on-one. But in the context of the game, I still think and I do believe, like I said before, that killer instinct. I think that Mike has it and LeBron doesn't. Now, not taken away from LeBron's greatness. I think he's more Magic Johnson than Michael Jordan. But I think he's a much, much more athletic Magic Johnson. That's just my opinion. But Mike was a different beast,
Oh, he had the killer instinct. I mean, he has the most championships. He has the most game-winning shots. He is an amazing player. And I guess the experiment would be to put LeBron on the Bulls and, just have the same teammates around them, computerize it and see who wins.
I don't know, man. I don't know. But I just know that I want Cleveland to at least win one game.
They aren't.
I wanted to go 4-2.
They aren't. It's game over.
When's the next game anyway?
It's either tonight or tomorrow.
Either tonight or tomorrow.
I'm not sure.
I may have to look that up really fast.
Yeah, but you can expect the Warriors to sweep. I mean, look, tune into something else if you want to see excitement.
Well, what was the series record last year?
3-1. Cleveland came back, but that's when the nut kicker, did his magic and got himself knocked out of the game.
Hey, that's the Saginaw, Michigan guy, right?
Yeah, there. That's Saginaw. Draymond Green.
Yeah. But I was trying to see when the game is coming on. I'm sure that someone's going to let me know. Oh, it's tonight. It's in Cleveland tonight.
Mm-hmm.
You know what?
Skip it, everybody. Just tune into something else. Go do something productive. Go spend some time with your kids.
Yeah. Well, no. I think Cleveland has to pull out at least one.
They're not.
And I'm a Draymond Green fan because it's hometown love.
Mm-hmm.
It's hometown love.
Mm-hmm.
And I like the Golden State Warriors. I do. I like watching them play, and I'm a fan of the team. I really am. So I wouldn't be completely upset or heartbroken if they won. But just I kind of root for the underdog. And also it's Cleveland, and I know how much this means to a Midwestern Rust Belt state and things like that. And so in the Bay Area, Silicon Valley, they already have everything. They have all the money. They have all everything.
Cleveland won last year. It's Golden State's turn. They alternate years.
Well, Golden State won.
Yeah, they alternate years.
You think they alternate?
They alternate.
But what's
years.
that say about the league?
It means the league's uncompetitive. You have super teams. You have LeBron and you have the super team. You have Irving.
What do you think about Kevin Durant going over to?
I'd have done the same thing if I was him. You want to win championship, you go where you're most likely.
Man. You are disappointed. You don't go to the same team that put you out of it last year. Come on, man.
You want to win a championship? What's your goal?
Hey, listen,
What's your goal?
Your goal is to compete.
Your goal is to win.
They were up 3-0 when he was in Oklahoma City, they were up
3-1.
3-0,
They were up 3-1.
3-1 against Golden State, and they just didn't close it out. So if you want to go somewhere, fine, go somewhere else, but don't go to the team that came back and got you.
You got to go if you want to win. That's where you go, and he's going to win. He's going to be the MVP of the series.
Well, you know what? More power to them. They're all millionaires anyway. I don't feel that sorry for them.
No.
Yeah. But listen, guys, it's been a real pleasure having Rich on here. I don't get the chance to see him very often because he's gone all the time. And so thank you, my brother, for coming on.
My pleasure.
You know, and all the best to Ellie and the little one. Hi, Ellie. I look forward to meeting you, and thanks to all of you, and thank you Valerie for calling in the very early on in the show, and using me as tech support. That was kind of cool. That was different. I like it. Anyway, so everyone, thank you for joining us on this Friday, and thank you for starting your weekend with us. We will be back next week on another edition of Focus with Ron Frierson. Have a good weekend.
Check out richtrek.com.
Yes, richtrek.com. RICHTREK.com.
You can read some of the stories, sift through. If you're on the desktop, you can choose by country. If you choose Jordan, Mongolia, Syria, or Argentina, you're going to find some interesting stuff.
There you go. Let's do it. Have a good one, guys.